we saw with Harvey and with Ike and countless other storms, the damage to your property can be devastating, but there are some things you can do ahead of time.
4 or 5 kids run back in their trailer, and then the tornado hit it and they were gone.
A family loses everything, and a sudden disaster turns their world upside down. When hope seems lost, Elon Musk steps in and does something unexpected. During their darkest hour, he offers help that no one saw coming. His surprising act brings hope to a family on the brink of despair. What drives a man like Elon Musk to step into the chaos and offer help? Stay with us as we investigate how one act of kindness can ignite the flames of renewal. A family's sheltered reality. The Johnsons find safety in a shelter with many others who have also lost their homes. Everyone looks sad, but they're grateful to be with their loved ones. The Johnsons feel the same. They've lost so much, but at least they still have each other. As we dive deeper into their story, get ready to discover more about how unexpected help can turn things around. They knew that belongings could be replaced, but people couldn't. Still, the emotional pain of losing their home, filled with family photos, special keepsakes, and treasured memories, was hard to bear. Located in a quiet area outside of Houston, it had been a safe place for James and Carla since they bought it as newlyweds. Over the years, they had poured their love, money, and effort into making it the perfect home for their family. It was where James had spent countless hours playing with their kids in the yard, and where Carla had cared for the garden they both loved. Losing this familiar and cherished place brought deep sadness, as they now faced the challenge of starting from scratch. But the worst was yet to come. The reality of their situation would soon sink in, and the road ahead was anything but easy. Carla's kitchen, usually filled with the warm smell of her freshly baked peach cobbler, was a place of comfort. Her daughters, 8-year-old Olivia and 5-year-old Alicia, loved to relax there after school. But when Hurricane Harvey came, everything changed. The storm brought a sense of worry and fear to their once cozy home. As it got closer, everyone in the neighborhood was glued to their TVs, watching the serious warnings. People started packing up important things, securing their homes, and getting ready for what was to come. Yet no one was truly prepared for how bad it would be. At first, there were rumors that the storm might weaken, giving people a moment of hope. But that hope quickly faded when the storm turned into a Category 4 hurricane, heading straight for Texas with full force. When it hit, it was brutal. They watched in fear as floodwaters quickly filled their home. They had barely any time to grab a few precious belongings, a stuffed animal and a book for each child, and a family photo album filled with memories. With the water rising fast, they had to leave their home, knowing they might never return to the life they had known. After the disaster, they found temporary shelter at the NRG Center, a large emergency housing facility now crowded with about 1,800 other people who had also been displaced. This noisy, busy place was a far cry from the calm and comfort of their own home. At night, the air was filled with the sound of people quietly crying themselves to sleep, mourning everything they had lost. During the day, the shelter was filled with a heavy silence, as everyone tried to understand the full extent of the disaster. Olivia starts to see the truth, and a surprise visit brings a bit of hope. Elon Musk's strange visit to the storm shelter. Olivia, the older daughter, began to understand more of what had happened, even as her parents tried to protect her from the worst of it. Alicia, the younger one, kept talking about going home, not yet realizing that there was no home left to return to. James and Carla did their best to stay strong for their children's sake, but at night, when they were alone with their grief, they held each other, overwhelmed by the enormity of their loss and worried about what the future might hold. Life at the shelter became a monotonous routine, but one Saturday, a wave of excitement swept through the place. Elon Musk and his team had come to visit. For many, this visit brought a small spark of hope, a sign that important people were paying attention and might be able to help in some way. James and Carla quietly hoped that this attention could be the beginning of a new chapter in their journey to rebuild their lives. The community was hopeful that Elon Musk's visit would bring more than just a photo opportunity. They needed real help, food, money, and tools to fix the damage left by the storm. When Musk arrived at the relief shelter, he brought a sense of hope and determination. He walked through the rows of families who had lost their homes, shaking hands, sharing encouraging words, and showing his support with gentle pats on the back. Musk knelt down to Olivia, gently held her face, and gave her a warm smile followed by a high five. This simple gesture brought out a small, hesitant smile from Olivia, a moment her parents treasured, as it was the first smile they had seen since the storm hit. For them, this moment of genuine human connection was a much-needed break from their ongoing struggles. Alicia, who was only 5 years old, didn't understand Musk's global fame. She just felt the kindness he offered, a rare moment of comfort in her chaotic life. After spending time with them, Musk put on a pair of gloves and started helping distribute meals, hot dogs and chips, that Olivia and Alicia eagerly accepted. Their parents watched with mild surprise, grateful for the sense of normalcy these simple pleasures brought to their children. The two girls ate with enthusiasm, something that had been missing since they arrived at the shelter. Meanwhile, Musk and his team continued loading aid supplies into vehicles and handing out food to those who needed it. Musk made a joke about how the hard work was like a workout as he lifted another box into a truck. This brought a small smile to the tired volunteers, who appreciated his attempt to lighten the mood. As Musk moved around the shelter, he made sure to check in with the family often. He sat down with James and Carla, listening carefully as they told him about their scary escape from the flood and how they lost their home. Even though he had heard similar stories all day, Musk's resolve to help seemed to grow stronger with each conversation. When Carla mentioned that their kids still believed they would go back to their house, Musk's face showed how deeply he was touched. In a moment full of empathy, he gently placed his hand on Carla's shoulder, understanding the weight of their loss. He spoke sincerely about how committed he was to working with local and federal teams to make sure the relief effort was effective. Elon Musk's promises lift spirits, but real challenges lie ahead, beyond the debris of Hurricane Harvey. He reassured the Johnson family that he was personally dedicated to making sure that those affected by Hurricane Harvey wouldn't be without shelter for long. He promised them, along with everyone else in their community, would get what they needed to rebuild their homes and their lives. But this wasn't the most challenging part of his visit. Musk's visit continued, filled with moments of real connection and promises of meaningful support. He knew that the road ahead would be tough, but he was determined to make a difference for these families. Musk himself sat down with several families, chatting with them and helping the kids create their own art. Carla watched, tears in her eyes, as her daughters laughed and acted like kids again, something they hadn't done since the hurricane hit. Their laughter filled the room with joy, and their colorful drawings turned the dull shelter walls into a bright display of hope. As the children focused on their drawings, the adults around them saw it as more than just an activity. It was a powerful reminder of the better days they were working hard to bring back for their kids. Before Musk left, he made sure to sign the wall alongside the children's drawings, showing his promise to stand by those affected by the disaster. His signature was more than just a name. It was a symbol of his commitment to help rebuild and support everyone in the shelter. After Musk's visit, the news was full of stories about the massive damage caused by Hurricane Harvey, one of the costliest natural disasters in Texas history. With over 30,000 people displaced and more than 177,000 rescue operations, the toll had tragically risen above 100. But despite these grim numbers, the family held on to Musk's words, finding hope in the promise of aid and the future rebuilding of their lives. For James and Carla, Musk's visit was a turning point. They had felt forgotten in the midst of such a large-scale disaster, but his presence made them feel seen and valued. Even though they knew others were facing even bigger challenges, Musk's visit reassured them that their struggles were recognized. This recognition gave them the comfort and strength they needed to start imagining a way forward, supported by the community and Musk's clear commitment to help. But this wasn't the end of their journey. As they looked around at the damage and the long road ahead, they knew the real challenge was just beginning. As Musk listened to their stories, he quickly understood how serious their situation was. He wasn't just concerned about their individual problems, but also cared deeply about the well-being of their entire community. His unexpected visit and genuine kindness brought a new sense of hope to them. They felt supported, knowing that someone recognized their struggles and that the larger community was standing with them during this difficult time. Musk's encouragement and reassurances strengthened their belief that their community could recover. But it wasn't just his words that lifted their spirits. It was the compassion and personal connection they felt from Musk that day. The family, who hadn't really paid attention to Musk or his business ventures before, were moved by his gesture. They appreciated the kindness he showed, revealing a side of him that wasn't often seen in public. This meeting changed how they saw him, not just as a business innovator, but as someone who genuinely cared about helping people when it really mattered. At the NRG Center, the Johnsons and their neighbors find strength together. Houston's community rebuilds. After visiting the NRG Center, Musk and his team went to the First Church in Pearland, a suburb of Houston. There, they joined volunteers in loading vehicles with boxes and bottles of water. Musk's involvement lifted the spirits of the volunteers, motivating them to work even harder to help those impacted by the disaster. The challenges after Hurricane Harvey were huge, with ongoing floods causing massive damage to homes and infrastructure, requiring a lot of resources and teamwork. But with Musk stepping in to help, there was renewed hope among the people that they could rebuild their lives and their community despite the devastation. At the NRG Center, Elon Musk's visit had really lifted everyone's spirits, and you could see the change in the days that followed. The Johnson family, led by James and Carla, started to rebuild their lives with some help from federal funds and a group of volunteers. They found a temporary place to stay and began the hard task of putting their lives back together. Telling their daughters, Olivia and Alicia, that they had lost everything was heartbreaking for James and Carla. But to their surprise, the girls took it well. They were more excited about the new friends they had made at the shelter than sad about losing their toys. After the devastating flood, the Johnsons, like many others, faced the tough challenge of rebuilding their lives. The floodwaters had swept through their neighborhood, leaving destruction in their path. But in the middle of all this despair, something remarkable happened. The community's spirit began to come alive again. Neighbors who were once just familiar faces now became sources of strength for each other. They shared what they had, offered comfort, and worked together to clear the debris from their once peaceful streets. Rebuilding was slow and difficult. Every day brought new challenges as the community worked to restore their homes and lives. But through these struggles, the bonds between people grew stronger. Fundraisers and charity events became common, each one showing the community's determination to rise from the ruins. They made sure that the most vulnerable received the assistance they needed. Workshops and information sessions were organized to guide people on how to document property damage and navigate the complex paperwork of disaster relief applications. Philanthropic organizations and local government agencies worked together to provide funds and resources for rebuilding efforts. Grants were given to support long-term recovery, focusing on not just restoring the community, but making it stronger against future disasters. Recovery specialists were appointed to oversee the projects, ensuring that each step was a move toward a more secure future. Mental health also became a priority. Counselors and support groups worked hard to help residents cope with the emotional impact of the disaster. Efforts were made to keep the community informed and engaged, maintaining open communication between the people and those in charge. Streets that were once filled with rubble and sorrow now echoed with the sounds of construction and hope. Children who had once been frightened by the devastation now played in the newly built parks, their laughter symbolizing the community's enduring spirit. But this wasn't the end of their challenges. The flood had taken so much from them, but the Johnsons and their neighbors had gained something priceless, a sense of unity and a plan for a future that could withstand whatever nature might throw at them. With each brick laid and each garden replanted, they weren't just rebuilding homes. They were strengthening their resolve, creating a lasting bond that would protect them for generations to come. The Johnsons see kindness and teamwork in action as they rebuild. The Johnsons' path of resilience. Seeing everyone come together was uplifting for the Johnsons. The storm had taken away their homes, but it also sparked a wave of kindness and unity. Watching others who had also lost so much, taking steps to rebuild and help out wherever they could inspired the Johnsons greatly. They saw neighbors and friends picking up the pieces of their lives, and this motivated them to keep going. But the road ahead was long and tough. The Johnsons knew this well. Yet they stayed determined to rebuild and come back even stronger. After all, their daughters deserved a stable and hopeful future, and that's what they were going to provide, no matter how hard it was. After Hurricane Harvey hit, the Johnson family held on to the lessons they learned during that difficult time. They realized that when things get really tough, staying close and being kind to each other are the most important things they can do. They never forgot the person who helped them when they were most in need, going above and beyond with kindness. This act of generosity reminded them that they mattered, bringing back hope and faith that were starting to slip away. When Elon Musk arrived at the energy center, things looked bleak, but his commitment to helping them showed that when people work together for a shared goal, amazing things can happen. It might take time, but with ongoing effort and teamwork, they could rebuild their community and make it even better than before. The Johnsons knew the path ahead would be challenging, but with the lessons they'd learned and support from leaders like Musk, they felt ready to face whatever challenges came their way together. But that wasn't the hardest part. The real challenge was keeping their spirits up during the long process of rebuilding. Every step forward required patience and resilience, and there were times when giving up seemed like the easier option. However, the Johnsons reminded themselves of the strength they found in each other and kept pushing through, one day at a time. The goal was simple: to help communities return to the success they once knew. Everyone was ready to give their all, and it was comforting to know that Elon Musk was there to support them during the tough times ahead. The true impact of Hurricane Harvey soon became clear. The damage was so overwhelming that the name Harvey was retired from the list of future Atlantic storms. As the U.S. faced more challenges, both natural disasters and man-made problems, Musk's visit to the NRG Center stayed in the minds of those who were there. It was a moment of kindness and support for those who needed it most. While rebuilding their home, the Johnson family kept Musk's generosity close to their hearts. It was a memory that would stay with them forever. But that wasn't the hardest part. Even with support, the journey to rebuild was filled with obstacles. The challenges ahead were daunting, but the hope sparked by that visit gave them the strength to keep going. What do you think was the hardest challenge the Johnson family faced in rebuilding their home? Share your thoughts, like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more.